All right, here's a Tuesday evening update on Helene. This is still expected to become a major hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico and not just impact Florida, but also further north too, into the Appalachians. There could be devastating rain here. We're talking about maybe a foot of rain in some areas. Not just here, but also across Georgia, down along Florida where this thing comes ashore. And then how much rain do we see further to the west back here? I think there's some questions with that. So we're going to look at that. There's also a severe weather component to this too. Let's start with the spaghetti plots. Look at these random models here trying to pull it to the west, but you do have the consensus that this thing is coming into Florida, the GFS, the NAM, the European, all this afternoon, pulling this thing ashore. And let's look at the players here. First, we've got high pressure building here, getting stronger off the east coast. So this thing is not coming east like this. It may ride a little bit closer to Florida. It may move up the coast, and we're definitely going to feel the impacts here along the west coast of Florida with the wind, the storm surge, which could be 10 to 15 feet as this thing gets close to northern parts of Florida into the panhandle. And then back to the north and west, we have this upper low. This will be critical for where this storm goes. These two systems are literally going to dance around each other like this. So you have this upper low likely to move in this direction, while Helene gets pulled in this direction, kind of up and around that low. So look at them dancing around each other. I said that earlier today. You can see that, and then boom, it gets absorbed here by this upper low. Really, that's a colder pool of air, and it loses its tropical characteristics. But nonetheless, this will be a high-impact storm, damaging hurricane and tropical storm force winds, and also some inland flooding, maybe even some mudslides into the mountains. Let's look at the forecast track closely as we head into early Wednesday morning. Hurricane gusts likely here off the coast. We're looking at Mexico now. This is the Yucatan Peninsula, so you're at Cancun somewhere in here, Cozumel here, and then down here's Tulum, up here's Cuba. This thing comes very close to the shore here. You're going to feel the influence of land here too, so some dry air will likely be pulled around this storm. But look what happens as this thing moves out into the open water. It's going to explosively grow with a favorable environment for tropical development. We're going to get strong damaging winds here along the coast. Storm surge will start to pick up, and this is going to be a problem. Places like Tampa Bay might see some decent storm surge out of this with that southerly flow really just pushing water into the bay here. And now we're continuing to push water here up into the panhandle. But it's not just going to be the coastal areas. And don't get too hung up on exactly where this thing goes, especially further inland, because we're going to see the impacts as early as tomorrow, Wednesday, with some flooding rains, and that will continue. In fact, we have a washed out front here, and now we've got this easterly upslope flow here into the mountains. Mudslides, flash flooding, all possible, on top of damaging winds that could gust over 50 to 60, maybe even 70 on some of the higher ridges, even through Friday morning. It will start to weaken. Clearly a lot of terrain here, so this is going to be impacted by that terrain, so it'll start to weaken. The wind field starts to back off, but it's still going to stay gusty. Tornadoes possible on the east side of this storm, no matter where it goes, so keep that in mind. As we head into the day, this is the GFS. As we head into the day Thursday, that thing will be moving ashore. The official forecast is to bring it ashore sometime, looks like Thursday night into early Friday morning. We've got multiple hurricane warnings in effect, also tropical storm warnings surrounding that. And on the east side of Florida, we're going to get some issues there too, where we have tropical storm watches because that wind field is going to be huge. So no matter where this goes, this is going to be a big weather maker, and that's going to continue Friday into Friday night into Saturday. Now, of course, we're not going to be dealing with hurricane conditions up here into the Ohio Valley or the Mid-South, but there could be some really heavy rain on the way. We talked about the spaghetti plots. Again, a lot of consensus that this thing comes here, and then once it gets up in this area, a lot of questions because of that upper low. Where does the moisture go? Well, the flow stays up here, so it really takes until about Monday or Tuesday until that thing really kicks out of here. The GFS, very similar to the European, wrapping that low, that tropical low, what's left of it, around our upper low back to the west, and then it just gets absorbed here across the Tennessee Valley, and that could keep the heavy rain underneath that lingering through the weekend. Kind of hard to really time that out or really get into that because, it just depends on how strong it remains, at least how much moisture sticks around and how much lift we have in the atmosphere. Do we see 5, 6, 7 inches of rain back to the west? Either way, the confidence is getting very high that we're going to get some flash flooding here into the southern Appalachians. There could even be some mudslides. And look at these rain totals. Anything really here over white, these are forecasted numbers, is over 10 inches. Some areas could see over a foot of rain. Okay, so your topography goes uphill generally from this direction, right? So if your winds are coming in like this too, and your highest peaks would be somewhere in here, roughly. I know you've got your ridge valleys here, but from Asheville up to Boone, Blowing Rock, north up toward Mount Rogers into Virginia, Carroll, Grayson counties. Now we're up into the New River Valley, toward Roanoke, Lynchburg, maybe even up to Charlottesville. You've got Afton Mountain here. So with that upslope flow, even that far north, we'll be squeezing the rain showers out. On the west side of the mountains, there may actually be some downsloping flow here into parts of northern West Virginia that would limit your rain totals. But still, we're talking about several inches for parts of southern West Virginia and Virginia, with the highest totals here into East Tennessee. I would say right here along the mountains, and you may get a bit of a rain shadow effect here from the Tri-Cities, maybe even down to Knoxville, as our winds come down the mountains and we get some drying. West of the mountain or east of the mountains, though, that's where the problems will be with the heavy rain. Also, severe weather on the table too. Back you up. Let's take you first into tomorrow. This would be Wednesday across the south. Tornadoes possible with these storms, and that expands north as we head into Thursday, as we have a landfalling hurricane looking more and more likely. We do have a front here that's trying to work to the east. That will be a focal point for showers and storms on Wednesday. We're priming the pump, if you will, with these rain showers here. Tropical moisture starting to increase off the Atlantic and out of the Gulf as we head into Wednesday night and Thursday. So we're already seeing heavy rain here in these areas. And now we're starting to feel the outer bands here into parts of Florida. And then look, here comes your hurricane heading into Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening. Conditions here along the Gulf Coast will deteriorate rapidly. We have got a decent shield of rain going here, again, saturating the ground, and then here comes the hurricane ashore, with likely seeing feeder bands moving into that storm, just continuing to cause that heavy rain and severe weather. Not quite as strong across the west, though. It's still going to be active, though. We've got a front moving in here and a system that's going to bring some rain here, maybe some high mountain snow here up into the Canadian Rockies. But the big weather, again, across the east, with Helene moving ashore. Heading into next week, looks like a ridge starts to build across the country. Some much needed dry weather here across the south to really likely clean up after what could be a real big problem. All right, that's all I got for now, guys. If you'd like to look at the winter forecast, I did put that out just a couple of days ago. Here it is. See you there.